Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. So we haven't really looked at AD carries properly for a little while. So today we're going to rank every single one of them and provide you with the best builds or variations of their builds that you can go into solo queue and use for them. If you don't follow me on Twitter, which you definitely should do, you probably won't have seen, but I am now joining Mobalytics full-time as their head of video content and partnerships. This is a really big thing for me. It's a massive next step for me in kind of my career and stuff. I will still be doing videos on this channel and we'll still be creating content as well, but you should expect some really cool things this year with Mobalytics. Anyway, let's jump into our video, and as always, we've separated them into 4 tiers. So the first tier is basically you could pick them every single game and you can do pretty well with them. Tier 2 is going to be very strong, but there is something that just lets them down a tiny little bit. Now, tier 3 is there are some obvious downsides, so you're going to have to play around. Finally, tier 4 is reserved for something that just isn't really that optimal at the moment, and we'll get to that at the very end of this video. Kicking us off in our tier 1, our first champion is going to be Kai'Sa. No real surprise, really. You can pick her in every game. She works with an AD and an AP build. You can never really go wrong. The build is pretty much the same. We're going to go press the attack. We take our Triumph. You can take Overheal if you want to, but not very common. And then we go Bloodline because we don't really build any lifesteal and items, not until very later, if at all, actually. We obviously have 3 builds for Kai'Sa as well. So we have our AP kind of version, which is this first one. We have our Stormrazor AD version, even though technically you can go Man Immune into AD if you want to. And then we also have our Infinity Edge Rush, which is our full crit version. But I personally am playing Man Immune at the moment. I think the AP build has better defensive options, but AD definitely does a little bit more damage. Next up, we have a new entry, very new actually. So Ashe is insanely good at the moment after the buffs. Her Q is now an auto attack reset, and her passive is going to slow it just a little bit better as well. And this is why Lethal Tempo is now our main keystone. You can go Arcane Comet if you want to, but Lethal Tempo stacks up our Q faster, which then we use the auto reset part, and that is why it has such a good win rate. There are 2 builds that you can go for at the moment. You can go auto attack style with Blade of the Ruined King, and you can go Essence Reaver style, which is more cooldown reduction, spamming your arrows and your W. Third up in our tier 1 is going to be Caitlyn. Again, a really good choice. You can't really go too wrong with her because she has a good lane phase and she has a really good late game. The only downside to Caitlyn is that she dips a bit in the mid game. You're kind of waiting for your second item especially, and really your third item before you can absolutely pound away. There are a couple of different builds you can go for, but all of it really revolves around crit. You can go Essence Reaver for more AD and better headshots, especially with your traps as well, but the Rapid Fire and the Shiv or PD version is probably a bit more common. Whichever one you go for, there have been quite a lot of buffs for Caitlyn recently. They've really stacked up into what we have at the moment, and her lane phase is just so strong. It's really hard to punish, and she has some really good damage. Our next one is a little bit different because Jinx has been so good for a long time, actually, ever since they changed her W to scale with attack speed, I think, and they kind of shifted some of her power back to mid game. So the reason Jinx is so insanely good at the moment, and you can pick this into any lane, is because she really provides that cleanup, and she has really high range. She's relatively safe, but very high damage. With tower plates now being in the game as well, Jinx is pretty perfect. She melts through towers with her minigun, and she's going to get so much gold and kind of pretty much just snowball out of control. She doesn't really have any variation in her build, honestly. You can change the attack speed items like a Phantom Dancer if you need to, but you want to rush your IE into Runans and then just basically get more crit. So last up in our tier 1, we're going to be looking at Lucian. This is a little bit arguable, I guess, but the reason he's going to be in here, for me at least, is because he can get a really big lead early, and with this full crit build now as well, he actually scales pretty well. So the full crit build that I'm talking about is build 3 here, so Essence Reaver into Infinity Edge and into Rapid Fire Cannon. It gives you a good early still because you have so much AD, you have good crit, but you actually scale. It is a bit more risky, but it can also show your skill a little bit more as well, so I do think he is still tier 1. You can pick him every game, and every lane is pretty much winnable. Now moving on to our tier 2, we have some very strong champions, but there is something that lets them down just a little bit. Like Ezreal, for example, just isn't very reliable. I know it sounds kind of strange, but you can be really fed. You can have a lot of items and actually end up having pretty much 0 impact if you miss your ultimate or you don't land enough Ws and Qs combined. There isn't much build variation anymore because they've sort of killed the AP version. You can still do it, and it actually does still work, and it provides a bit more burst damage. Most people, though, are going to go for the Blade of the Ruined King kind of AD version. It does do a little bit better at the moment, and the only real choice there is whether you go Iceborne Gauntlet, which is kind of your default, or Trinity Force if you get fed. Vayne is also in tier 2. One of the biggest problems with Vayne at the moment is there is a lot of AoE damage, and she's pretty short range compared to most tier 1 AD carries anyway, so they always get the first hit, the first crit, and it kind of puts Vayne at a bit of a disadvantage, which can be kind of hard to teamfight with. Saying that though, she is one of the best scaling AD carries that we still have. It's still going to be Blade into Rage Blade and then Phantom Dancer ideally, and if you can get to that 3 item point, you're pretty much going to run away with the game. It's partially also why we see Inspiration used on her a bit more now as well, because you have this kind of lane phase power from those runes, and it helps you get out and get into your items that you need. Next up, we have one that hasn't changed at all. So Draven is the same build as the last time we did this video. There are some different keystones you can use, like Header Blades and I think Kleptomancy as well, but Press Attack is the most common. Normally, you want to be rushing your Bloodthirster. You can rush IE if you have a lot more damage instead, but Draven is Draven. He runs over the lane phase, cashes in on his passive, and the game is pretty much over from that point. He does way more damage than everybody else. He heals for an absolute ton as well, and it's very difficult to play against and very difficult to shut down, which is why he's banned a lot. Recently, we had a round of nerfs for some AD carries, and Xayah was one of those, and she did feel it a little bit more than Kai'Sa. She got hit a bit harder. Your ultimate cooldown was increased, especially at early ranks, so it makes your lane phase a lot less safe, and you'll end up dying a lot more or getting less kills as well. The build is still relatively the same. You do have a choice though, so you can go Essence Reaver Rapid Fire IE, which is pretty standard, or if you're fed especially, you can go Essence Reaver into IE. You can do this with a lot of different champions. It just provides you more AD. You don't have as much attack speed, but for someone like Xayah, you have it on your W, so you can kind of just use that as a really high burst window. Last up in our tier 2, which arguably could actually be a lot higher in this video, is going to be Jhin. Now, Jhin is really good at the moment in certain games. If he gets fed, he goes out of control because he does so much more damage than most other ADs. Most of the time, you're going to be going for a 100% crit build, and this means that your autos really sting. And once you get to your 4th shot as well, it's just absolutely crazy, and most ADs cannot fight you. There are some downsides, like you're pretty immobile and you can be shut down in the lane phase, but if you get out of lane and you start to get those items together, it can be really hard to play against. You'll have a bit more utility, a bit more setup, and just a lot of damage. Tier 3, we have some more obvious downsides that you're going to have to play around, and I feel like whenever I think of picking this champion, I can kind of think of a reason that I would not want to, and that is why they're in Tier 3. Just to be clear as well, I feel like Tier 1 and Tier 2 are pretty similar in like power level, for example, but then there is a bit of a drop when you go down to Tier 3. The first one we're going to look at then is Tristana. Now, Tristana can be really good late game because she has a really high range, but most of her kit is really geared toward lane phase, towards fighting and kind of snowballing out of control. Most of her kit works as you're jumping into a fight, right? And if you can't do that, then she's not going to be as strong. The build is normally just going press attack because it works really well with your bomb synergy. You have your Infinity Edge, your Shiv for a bit more burst, your rapid fire, or maybe PD if you really need it. Misfortune at lower ranks could definitely slot into tier 2, I think, but the main problem you're going to have is that she's very immobile, and so if you miss position and you make a mistake, you're probably going to get punished for it. There are two very different builds that you can go for as well. We see a lot of pressy attack at the moment, and that's still probably better with a Blade Throwing King build because of the attack speed with it and the stacking and everything together. Saying that, you can also run a full lethality build, and it doesn't really matter. You can make that work because your W does stack it pretty quickly, but we also see a lot more Dark Harvest now. Dark Harvest works really well because it has an AD ratio, it's physical damage, and it will scale with the lethality that you're going to have in your kit, so it does actually make a lot of sense for Misfortune. Either way, you will pack a massive punch. I feel like Blade Throwing King might get used a little bit more at higher ranks, but for raw damage, you can't really go wrong with lethality. Next up, we have Sivir. So she's in a bit of a weird spot right now because she can actually be pretty good if you just AFK farm and you get to your items that you need, but she will lack a bit of damage until she gets them. There are a lot of other champions like Caitlyn, like Xayah, for example, that kind of do a similar job, less on the utility side, but way more on the damage side. It is mostly because Sivir was nerfed and they just took a lot of damage out of her kit, I feel like, and that is why she isn't really seeing as much play as before and why she can kind of get bullied a lot harder in the lane phase. Next up, we're going to look at two very similar champions. So the first of these is going to be Twitch. Now, he's not very good in the lane phase and can kind of get bullied pretty hard. If he doesn't get bullied and if he doesn't get shut down, then he can snowball out of control. He can roam to other lanes and become a late game god. That's exactly why you'd pick him. There are two different builds you can go for. You can go for Blade Throwing King and kind of like their duelist playstyle. You can go for Burst with your Infinity Edge or Rush instead. But most of the time, you're going to see him as a jungler rather than an AD carry. You might have guessed as well, but Kog'Maw is pretty much the same thing. Really, like, he can be really good. He's just very immobile, kind of like Twitch actually, but even more so, really reliant on his team, but has crazy damage output. Kog'Maw is more single target focused, whereas Twitch is more like AoE, I guess. So that is a big distinction between the two. But realistically, Kog'Maw has to stand there, right click, and that's pretty much it. We have seen him in pro play a couple of times, and so he's not completely trashed here or anything like that, but you have to have some kind of reliance or like safety net with your team, which isn't really ideal for solo queue. Last up, we have Varus, and honestly, I think we're kind of getting getting towards a tier 4 territory right now, but not quite. Varus is okay. He still has his ultimate, still has a lot of burst potential, but there are just better picks. The good thing about Varus is that he has a really good lane phase. He has high range. He can trade very well with blight stacks, and he has a lot of damage. Like at level 6, your ultimate is pretty much a kill combo as long as you use your WQ to execute. You also have a really good team fight with your ultimate. Like it can set up so many plays and really be game changing, but the problem is you're immobile, and also you don't have any burst damage really. You're all about that ramp up and kiting, which is pretty difficult. Last up then, not optimal, we have our Kalista build, which hasn't changed at all. I don't think our position changed from last video either. At high ranks, we sometimes see Kalista, and she actually isn't that bad. Like, she still has pretty good damage, and once she gets to 3 items, if she gets ahead, it's really good. One of the biggest problems she has, though, is nobody really knows how to play with her anymore. Like, your support is going to have no idea. If you pick them up, they'll probably use the ultimate wrong, and it's such a big disadvantage. She also kind of needs to get ahead to get her items quick enough, but that's very difficult because her lane phase has been nerfed into the ground, so she isn't as much of a bully anymore because there's such a big difference between like kind of low elo Kalista and high elo Kalista. That is going to wrap up the picks for this video, and my order at least. There'll be ones that you probably disagree with. If there are any, let me know down in the description below. Thank you for watching until the very end of the video though, and for now I will leave you with Robos.